नमस्कार, दी सेक्रेटेरिएट में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं पवन कुमार और देश के प्रधानमंत्री अमेरिका जाने की तैयारी में हैं। अभी फ्रांस गए हुए हैं और फ्रांस होते हुए वो अमेरिका जाएंगे। अमेरिका में डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, वहां के जो राष्ट्रपति हैं, उनसे मुलाकात है और भारत और अमेरिका के व्यापारिक संबंधों पर घनघोर चर्चा होनी है। क्या चर्चा होगी, किसका फ़ायदा होगा, किसको नुकसान होगा, क्या समय की ज़रूरत है, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यापार क्या कहता है, भारत को व्यापार की क्या ज़रूरत है, इन सब बातों पर आज ज़्यादा विस्तार से बताने के लिए हमारे साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यापार के एक्सपर्ट अजय श्रीवास्तव साहब हैं, जो हमें बताएंगे कि कैसे इस यात्रा में जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यापार की जो नुआंसेस हैं उसको हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे डिकोड करने की अपने व्यूअर्स के लिए। श्रीवास्तव साहब, आपका स्वागत है हमारे इस कार्यक्रम में।
नमस्ते पवन जी, थैंक यू फॉर इनवाइटिंग मी।
See, what are the key issues that those issues will come up for discussion between the Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump when they meet in America?
So Pawan ji, the agenda is kept totally secret. Nobody knows what issues will be discussed, but we can guess. For example, one statement came that India may be buying more oil from the USA, or there was a talk about mini trade deal on 13th. But if you want my opinion, I'm sure, when two countries of the size of USA and India, they negotiate trade deals, it takes years. In normal FTA negotiation, there are 2 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So I think deal on the table, it should be avoided. And they should talk. And Honorable Prime Minister Modi should remind Trump that the bilateral economic relationship is very important for India. US is the top trade partner for India. So India accords the highest priority for the US interest. But at the same time, he should also remind that tariffs are not the only issue. And US technology firms like Google, Facebook, Instagram, and others, they operate in India freely. They don't have any access to China. So when two prime ministers president and prime minister talk, they should talk about the total economic engagement and not only about the tariffs.
The meeting that we are talking about, the one meeting, a brief meeting, this is not sufficient to look for the other opportunities that we can look at, together.
Yeah.
Are you saying that?
I am saying.
Or that we have been preparing for it for last so many months, so many years. This is a long-term process. This is not a short-term process. That one meeting will, strike everything.
So I'll tell you how the international trade negotiations happen. When the two countries wants to do an FTA, both tell each other what they want from each other, and then the teams they break their heads for years together, and then only they arrive at conclusions. So deal on the table will not be feasible because the commitments we take in such deals, we have to meet those commitments for the next many decades. It may be good for the country if any slippage is there because of paucity of time. It may hurt the country. So I think when the two top democracies they are interacting this way, the deal should be well considered, and both the countries should identify priorities and should try to do an expedited deal. But on the table deal immediately, I don't think it's advisable. One more thing I would like to say is that there is a talk of mini deal. So mini deal, if one of the trade partners is a developed country, like in this case US is a developed country, so all the trade deals, FTA trade deals especially, they flow from the WTO rules, and the rule is very clear. Rule says that if one of the trade partners is a developed country, then there should be substantial trade coverage. Mini deal is not possible. It's legally flawed concept. So India should avoid mini deal. India can go for mega deal, but well considered. Let the 13th meeting be a beginning, and we can talk for an expedited deal.
US reciprocal tariff announcements, which may come or may not, how it will affect Indian exports and what steps can India take to mitigate those effects?
Reciprocal tariff, first Mr. Trump has to define this term. What does he mean by the reciprocal tariff? He is saying that India charges very high tariffs, but what he does to explain this, he takes the example of Harley Davidson. Of course, India's tariffs were 100% when he was saying this. Then we cut it to 50%, and then we brought down to 30% this budget. And he talks about alcohol. He says America charges 7.5%, but India charges 150%. Of course, that's correct. But these are not the average tariffs. These are the highest tariffs. Highest tariffs, they are outliers for any country. So our highest tariff is of course 150%, Mr.
And you have to also look at the volume of exports and import.
So highest tariff, America's highest tariff is 350% on tobacco. It's higher than India's highest tariff of 150%. So highest tariffs, they cannot be the benchmark. We have to talk about how much of America's trade is really facing, what tariffs they are facing in India. For example, I did an analysis. So top 75% buy value of American products to India, just 100 products they make of top 75% of value terms for American exports to India. And the average duty is less than 5% in these. So Mr. Trump has to do detailing to understand that India's tariffs may look high, but Americans, they are not facing higher tariffs in India.
Opportunities and challenges exist for India in increasing its energy imports from the US, and how will this impact India's energy security?
So energy is basically, we can divide into two parts. One is fossil fuel like crude petroleum oil, and second is renewable energy like solar cells. So solar cells, America and India both are dependent on China for the supply of solar cells, so that's ruled out. Now we talk about the fossil fuel, that is coal and crude oil. In both the cases, these are commodities. I buy petroleum crude from any country. So whosoever is giving me cheap, I'll be buying from that country. If America meets the terms in terms of prices, we should buy from America. But if we buy crude, same quality crude and paying higher price to America, I think that will not be in India's interest, and that will be only fueling inflation in India. So if America wants to sell more crude, more coal to India, then it should match the prices of other countries which are supplying to India.
And how will the US immigration policy, particularly regarding H-1B visas, this is going to impact the IT workforce and its impact on the Indian businesses, Indian companies?
So Pawanji, there was a study, when this outsourcing business started, Indian software exports took off in the late 90s and the early 2000s. There was a lot of hue and cry in the US that US jobs are being lost to Indians. And then the study says that 80% of the profits are going to the US. India is only 20% of the profits. So H-1B, of course, it helps Indian to perform tasks in USA, but it helps US also. So if any cut in H-1B is there, two things will happen. One, Indian software firms may be tweaking their models and they will be doing more of the development job offshore. That is, they will be doing it from India and from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, NCR, and they will be cutting the number of engineers in USA, or they may be hiring some more US citizens there. So I think H-1B major changes, I don't see major changes.
The onus lies on USA or onus lies on India to reduce the trade deficit. How do you explain it?
So before answering this, I say India exports about $4 billion to Russia and imports over $60 billion because India needs a lot of crude oil. So the country who needs more product will be buying more. So we have to look at not at the bilateral trade deficit. We have to look at the overall trade deficit of a country. And the most important reason US runs trade deficit with most of the countries is that US doesn't have to earn dollars. India and other countries, they have to earn dollars by exporting and through other means. But US just simply can print it, so it can overspend. I think that's the foremost reason. Other reasons are there, but they are less important.
So how do you see the war between the US and China? India's getting benefited out of it?
So Pawan, let's understand, it's very interesting. I was always wondering why the Trump administration is not studying the data of the first trade war. Trade war was started by Mr. Trump in his first term when in March 2018 he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum. And so we tracked the change in US imports between 2017, that is 1 year before the start of the trade war, and 2023, the last full year when data is available. So between 2023 and 2017, the US imports from China, of course, because of these tariffs, they declined by $82 billion. But US global imports, they increased by more than $760 billion. And Chinese global exports have increased by more than $1 trillion. So who gained from this? US lost. It can take a vicarious pleasure that its imports from China have come down, but its overall imports have gone up by $760 billion between these 5 years, and China's global exports have gone up. And China's exports, instead of going directly to the US, they were going indirectly, most of them to the US via Mexico, via Vietnam and other ASEAN countries. So US lost the trade war because its global imports increased.
Sir, as the situation shows that Trump may be fiercer this time, though he has some some relief measures he has taken against Mexico and Canada. In those situations, but he's still tough with China. In those circumstances, what kind of steps do you see that will be taken against India? The toughness of America will remain, as strong as it is against China, or it will be little, some relief will be there when it comes to steps against India?
I think Mr. Trump has mellowed down this time, and despite all the noise made by his administration and he himself, so far no duties have been imposed on Mexico or Canada despite being announced. They have been postponed by 1 month. On China, there was a talk of 60% tariffs, but he announced only 10%, and even those are being debated. But of course, today morning that news came that he may be announcing a fresh bout of duties today and tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Full of this week. So we have to wait for this week to understand this.
Sir, tell me, what are the sectors that you see that will get those sectors will bloom. During this time, and India should take the measures to promote all those sectors as far as export is concerned.
So Pawanji, in the last trade war, so data shows that between 2017 and 23, India is the 6th largest gainer of Trump's tariff against China. So our exports during this time have increased by $38 billion, and we could export for the first time this iPhones and solar cells to USA. And I hope this time, if the similar trend continues and India escapes the scathing tariffs, then we hope that our textiles, garments, medicines, engineering goods will be going in more and more values to the US.
Sir, the new trade policy is different, trade relations is different. The new trade policy, this will lead to a new trade relations, and what kind of implications it will have on Indian businesses?
So Pawanji, I think let's see how the Trump's tariffs and policies unfold. I think everything will be over in next 2-3 weeks. I hope so. Most of it will be over. Then we can respond to this in a more honest way. Right now, he just started unfolding. So it's difficult to say anything at this moment.